Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, where we look at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Welcome back. I'm your hostess today. I'm Kristen Hessler with Amber Jones and Cindy Murray.
Hello.
Hello.
I was like, are you here, Amber? Knock, knock.
No, I'm not here.
And we are in the month of March, which is Women's History Month. Last year, we talked about women in STEM, and we watched a movie together.
Yes. Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. And then we discussed that movie. And this year, we thought we would take on a more fun and playful topic, and we are talking about women in music and female rockers.
My heroes.
So both, it doesn't have to be just female rockers, but those are the heroes of the day, right? So, and one of the reasons why I thought of this topic was because, it's rock and roll is kind of like a man's world in a lot of places.
Oh yeah.
And the music industry has been a man's world, and more and more women are becoming recognized as artists. It seems far more and more artists, and some of them have really become like big icons
Right.
of our time. And not just rockers, but female music artists. And that would be just fun. I'm really into rock and, different, lots of different genres of music, but mostly rock is my favorite genre. And that's where I think is probably the least amount of female artists, maybe aside from like rap.
Well, there's a lot of female rappers.
There are now,
Yeah,
but there wasn't 20 years ago.
And even, as I was growing up, there weren't that many female rockers because most of the female artists were pop or country or,
Backup singers.
Or adult contemporary or backup singers. Yeah. And so, I, as a singer and musician myself, there were some pretty powerful rock females that kind of paved the way, I think. And I have to give my homage to them because they really were the forerunners of female rock. Let's start with Heart. The Wilson sisters are, they really changed the face of rock and roll for women. Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks and Chrissy McVie, they were both powerhouse females. Pat Benatar,
Joni Mitchell? Joni Mitchell?
Joni,
Yeah.
to some extent, yes, I mean, she was, but I don't know. I think I don't know. I have a hard time classifying her as rock to me. I don't know. But Joan Jett and Lita Ford, absolutely. And so those are the main ones I remember from like my teen years. Now, when I was a little girl, Nancy Sinatra was kind of my idol. She was the daughter of Frank Sinatra, and she came out with her song, These Boots Are Made for Walking, very popular tune. And my grandmother, who loved, Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, all Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, all of those, Tony Bennett. And so when Nancy Sinatra came out with an album, she bought that thinking, okay, this is, and it turned out to be like one of the huge influences on my life as a musical artist. I loved that song to the point where I always wanted to record that song and actually did get to do so as an adult. And so I loved that song, and that was a big influence on me wanting to become a musician in the first place. And then, of course, growing up listening to Heart and Fleetwood Mac and stuff like that. So, what about you guys?
Oh gosh, my favorite female rock artist of all time would have to be Shirley Manson of the band Garbage. That is one of my all-time favorite rock bands. And I just remember watching her videos on MTV and just falling in love with female rock artists.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Guy, and as you say that, I start thinking of other ones. I'm like I said, as a musician, there's just so many out there. I started thinking about Deborah Harry,
Yeah.
Kate Bush, Exene Cervenka from the band X, one of my all-time favorites. That punk scene was kind of very influential on my early adult years, and so those were some great ones.
One of my favorites growing up, because I wasn't a big fan of like female voice. I preferred male voice vocals, but I always loved Gwen Stefani.
Oh yeah,
and No Doubt. I loved. Man, I like wrecked that CD. Like I listened to it so much. I probably listened holes into it. And to see her carry on her career as a solo artist and kind of transcend the different music genres.
She has.
I really liked
been
that.
in a lot of genres.
And, even in her age, kind of like Madonna. Madonna, even, I mean, she's not really a rock artist, but
she's a
she is
female musician,
pop.
so
Yeah. But, to see her transcend the different music styles, even to get into like some techno kind of,
Madonna and Cher. Oh my goodness.
Well, oh my gosh, we saw Cher at the Thanksgiving Day parade, and she was still, on a stage dancing.
She's an alien.
Yeah. That was pretty insane. Here's one that you may never think of as a rock star, but she came out with a rock album, Dolly Parton.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
oh man, she's a star and
have you
whatever.
listened? Have
oh
you
my
listened
gosh.
to that album? It's insane.
I love
because
Dolly. Oh
I'm
my gosh.
listening to it and I'm just like, this song rocks, and it's an 80-year-old woman singing.
What
I
about
think she's 80 something?
Tina Turner?
Tina Turner.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my
man.
god, she's been rocking and rocking and rocking, and still has great legs. Yeah, I would love to have her body figure. There's still a lot though. You were talking about before we started recording, Kristen. You mentioned Susie Sue.
Susie and the Banshees.
Yeah, and she was a great influence as well. There's just another one I love. We heard it in the car earlier today, and I don't know the singer's name. The band Evanescence.
Amy Lee.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love her vocals. I think she has a great voice, and there's just so many. I don't even know how to quantify who would be my favorite. Really, I don't.
Probably Heart.
Probably Heart or Fleetwood Mac, one or the other. Heart for their hard rock and kind of that was like, I think, one of the first kind of harder bands that were led by females. Fleetwood Mac is a really up there too, though. My family, a lot of my friends, we used to laugh because we called Stevie Nicks Goat Woman, which I had a lot of friends. This is one of those things where you're not being your authentic self, and I often was not my authentic self. And people thought that I did not like Fleetwood Mac because I didn't like Stevie Nicks, which is absolutely the opposite of the truth. And but we used to laugh about how her voice, she has a certain quality to her voice, and somebody pulled up the nickname Goat Woman, so it kind of stuck. I don't know why, but anyway, it's kind of a rude comment, but she's one of my favorites, and I guess somebody thought that I did not like her, but I've always loved Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac, so that was probably one of my early bands that I listened to that I loved.
What about Bjork?
Bjork.
Yeah.
I have liked Bjork.
Yeah, Bjork.
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 I have liked some of Bjork's stuff. And then there's some stuff that I have not. Same with Sinead O'Connor. I loved her for some things, and some things I did not. So, yeah.
Did you know that the 1963 Doctor Who TV theme was created by a woman?
Oh, is that so?
And it's electronic.
Do what?
It's like electronica.
Okay.
So, like Dad's kind of music style. So
what is her name?
Delilah Derbyshire.
Okay.
She was born in 1937.
Wow.
So,
The
yeah,
Marina.
I know. That's crazy to think of, like, someone in 1937 born that year making, like, electronica. But
Well, I mean, when you start thinking about people like Wendy Carlos, that was a long time ago. That was electronica.
Mm-hmm.
Walter/Wendy was an early adopter of synthesizers, and she did the switched on Bach and some different things like that, but early adopter of those things. And Walter eventually transitioned to Wendy and continued her storied career. He was born in 1939. Yeah. Electronic, classical, ambient, jazz, and synth pop. And I know of Walter/Wendy, now known as Wendy, from my, going to school to learn, synthesizers and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So, we kind of touched on rap at the very beginning. One of the artists that I think of that's kind of like a forerunner for women is Missy Elliott.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, actually,
she's probably one of my most favorite.
Yeah. Going back to someone I already mentioned, Blondie was one of the early adopters of rap back in the 80s or late 70s. I'm not sure exactly when, with her song Rapture. And she is credited as one of the people who kind of brought rap to the forefront. Mark and I were watching something or listening. I think we were listening to it on NPR or something. It was a history of rap, and she was one of the big people who kind of brought rap.
So she was rapping?
Yeah,
Oh.
in that song, in Rapture.
I've never heard of that song before.
You haven't?
No.
No, I haven't heard it either.
That's the one where she's talking about the alien comes down and he's eating cars and eating bars, and now he only eats guitars. You've never heard that song?
No, I've never
That's
heard
one
that
of her
song.
huge hits.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I don't know what year. Oh, it came out in 1980.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was it's considered hip hop because she raps in it.
Huh.
And it's, like I said, one of the early ones. And I don't remember the story that how she became involved, but she knew somebody, and they kind of came in and invited her to do some things, and she liked what they were doing, and so she did it too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Now I need to go download that. It's called Rapture.
Rapture. Yes.
Go listen to it. I love being able to just like go listen to any old song that you want to listen to now.
Oh yeah.
Almost everything now is at your fingertips.
Spotify is wonderful. I love it. I do. Or Apple Music. Yeah. I love that older stuff is coming to that format, so I don't have to go buy the CD or whatever. Yeah.
So earlier I was just kind of like looking at top common names for like female rockers, and PJ Harvey came up on the list, and I wouldn't say she's like pop, she's just like alternative. And I was like, wow, I've never heard anyone else talking about PJ Harvey. My aunt gave me like some burned CDs one year for Christmas, and one of them was PJ Harvey, and I was like, okay, I've never heard of this, but I listened to it and I was like, okay, cool. And I never heard her on the radio. I never saw like stuff about PJ Harvey, so I was just like, okay, maybe it's just some underground music she gave me, But I saw PJ Harvey on the list, like in the like top 15 like female music artists, and I was like, wow, okay, like Beyonce and Madonna are up there, and all these other names we've talked about, and then there's PJ Harvey, and I'm like, how did she get on that list? Like, I was really surprised, and I clicked, and she's the only artist to win the Mercury Music Prize twice.
Okay.
So she made it onto this list, because getting that award twice, is pretty profound. When you think about like artists getting awards, like there's not like a whole lot of different awards out there. Well, you have like MTV Music Awards, Grammys, Billboard Awards, and there's other ones out there too. Like, but artists don't always get like recognized that much, even like the billboards. Like I've heard that the way Billboard gets artists get on the charts, back in the day was not necessarily like, because it wasn't like tracked like downloads, right? Like iTunes can literally count how many times someone plays a song on iTunes or how many times someone downloads it or purchases it. But Billboard was a little bit different because they would send these music tracks to radio stations, and then radio stations would fill out a form saying how often that they played a song, and then that's how Billboard like counted up like who was in the top charts. So, it might not necessarily be like the most legit way to determine who a top artist is. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of cool, like to see like certain artists getting like awards and stuff like that for their music.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Courtney Love, Amber.
Oh, yeah, I guess I do. I have like a love-hate relationship with Courtney Love. Okay, yeah, I do like the band Hole, and there is one album that was really influential on my writing that I listen to all the time. Like, all the time. But definitely not as much as Garbage was influential to me. But, yeah, Courtney Love is considered one of the greatest female rockers of all time. As well as Shirley Manson.
I have one for you that we haven't mentioned, an older one. Janis Joplin.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I think she was very influential in a lot of ways. There's just so many. I don't know. I pulled up a list here, and I'm trying to look through this list, and I'm just saying, how can you talk about this one without talking about that one? And it's kind of crazy. Grace Slick, she's not even on this list, and I'm just thinking, oh my God, Grace Slick was,
Oh yeah,
you know,
Jefferson Starship.
yeah, Jefferson Starship, Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah.
You know,
My parents had a cat named after Grace Slick when I was a kid.
and then another one that when I was younger, I used to get their names mixed up because there was Grace Jones, who is a phenomenal black artist who did a lot of really out there kind of cool stuff. And she was a fabulous one too. So why aren't they on there? I don't know. There's so many on here. And this list says Shania Twain, and I do not think of her as a rocker at all.
Oh, well, later in life, she
Well, she kind of crossed over, as did like Taylor Swift. And
was, yeah, yeah, Taylor Swift did too, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's crossover, but it's really more pop to me than rock. Now, Annie Lennox is another one. I loved her also. That she's one of my favorites. Pink. What about Pink?
Yeah,
Or
more
is that
poppy.
more
yeah.
pop?
Yeah, she's kind of like Madonna
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much, yeah.
Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
definitely.
That's probably one of my
Definitely.
recent favorite
The
artists.
singer of the Cranberries also,
Oh,
Dolores
yes.
Riordan, I believe.
Reardon, I think is
Reardon.
how that's.
Yeah, I love the Cranberries
Very
also growing
unique.
up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned Sinead O'Connor earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
We cannot forget Avril Lavigne.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about Evanescence, Avril Lavigne, Paramore, those were like all the tweens and teens and teeny boppers, like emo punk, like they loved that stuff.
Right.
I remember when I was in high school, there was an all-female rock band called Kitty, and they sounded a lot like Korn or one of those like really loud rock bands. And I think they only had a couple of albums, and I go back and listen, and I'm just like, wow, that wasn't like very pleasant to the ears. But when I was 16, it was the coolest thing in the world because they were doing like hardcore heavy metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet we're missing out on some really amazing female artists, rockers, and musicians out there. So you guys
Oh,
definitely
yeah, for
have to tell us who you think is the most ultimate female rocker. We should put a poll up.
Yeah, who's the
Don't we
best
have a
female
poll
rocker?
almost every week now, don't we?
Yeah.
I like those though. I like going and seeing what other people put on there.
Yeah. Who's
Those
the
are
most
pretty cool.
rockingest
Yeah.
rocking female artist of all time? So what are we talking about next week?
We are talking about tarot cards next week. I think we've talked about before that we love tarot, and we've talked about oracle cards before. We've done tarot readings, and this time we're just going to kind of talk about tarot and how we read, why we read. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just whatever.
Awesome.
Whatever comes up. So I'm looking forward to
Freeform.
that. Yes, very
yeah,
freeform.
freeform tarot.
All right. Well, I look forward to it. Well, we want to thank Kick Mix Studios and Creative Audio Tech for our
Yes.
audio equipment and our music.
Yeah.
And we want to thank our listeners and our commenters and our
Yeah.
subscribers.
And everyone who has
Everyone
anything
in
to do.
between.
All of the support that we get. Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Because you guys keep coming back every week for the random topic of the week, and we appreciate you
And
coming back every
sometimes we're
time.
Quite random. Yes.
Quite random.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to next week and hope to see you on our Facebook chat, MMC chat.
Yep.
Or hit us up at modernmusings.net where you'll see other content also related.
Definitely, yeah.
Yep.
Come back and listen to us.
All right.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.